The Chiefs just barely squeaked one by. We're getting ready, so welcome to the breakdown. This is RGR. Welcome back, Chiefs fans. RGR late night, we'll call this one. We'll try to keep it clean for the most part, but there are some things that might make you want to throw things or cuss a little bit. You never know. Yes. For those of you that are new, welcome. This is the breakdown. This is what we go through the notes on the game as we saw it live just off of the broadcast. This is not the 22 breakdown. If you're new to the channel, click the like, the sub, and the bell notification because that always helps us out and lets you know when we do something else. There's plenty to go over here. This is Dan Harms, the guy that keeps me on the straight and narrow and picks up all the stuff that I miss because there was plenty to see tonight, wasn't there, Dan?
So much.
Oh, I hope that all of you are doing well. There's a ton of people in here, ton of members. Welcome, all of you. Our mod, Aaron Morrow, is here. Jeff is here. Jeff Porter, our contributor. Dan and I, obviously, we have a ton of people. And folks, if we get to one of your questions, I will try to do that. But it looks like most of this is going to be our notes because we have a ton to go over. We're just going to do a quick 20 minutes or something like that to give you guys the lowdown. I feel like they dodged a bullet. I feel like what we talked about last week in underestimating teams, not getting up enough, it almost caught up with them tonight.
Yeah, and I feel like some people on Twitter kind of took my not being so happy with a win in a wrong direction because you can look at this game, and we talked about it before it happened, that this was a look-ahead spot. They got the Dolphins and the Saints coming up, and they did exactly what you can't be doing in division games. And I know they still won, but I don't feel great about how you win that game. Like Andy Reid, again, at the end of the game, not trusting Patrick Mahomes to get a first down, running it back-to-back on first and second down, forcing them to make timeouts. These kind of things are continuous, and they continue to happen. They continue to just squeak and eke by these teams that they really shouldn't. And yes, the Broncos did a very good job in the red zone, but there's a reason that they could do that in the red zone. They're not afraid of the Chiefs running the football. They're not.
That's the thing. And what's really interesting to me is that we saw them do things decently at times. When they finally got to the edge, there was an option play, there was a toss out there. They got led to the edge, and it worked. Down the stretch, they ran Darryl right down their throats between the tackles, and it worked. For some reason, outside of that, they don't seem to get the push unless it's really, really a focus point. I think this still comes back to the offensive line. You're right about the trust issue, but I think that also plays into some game time decisions about what the flow of it is as well. Folks, thank you for the super chats. We very much appreciate that. Scott, nice to see you. Gooch, as always. We will get back cleanest $20 million game. You got a good point because this is something I talked about on the podcast. And guys, go subscribe to Locked On Chiefs because you get my opinion along with two guys that cover it in a very different way. Matt Derrick is a beat reporter who covers the team in and out. Chris Clark has a lot of differing opinions from me. We kind of go round and round. But the thing that stood out to me is like I felt like this was the turning point almost. Like I felt Tyron turned it on. He had kind of an embarrassing game last week, and I felt like he definitely flipped the switch. I thought Chris Jones pushed the pocket a lot, if not get true pressure. But you're right, Gooch. Like Frank didn't get enough done yet. Do you think so too, Dan, or am I overplaying this?
Yeah, I mean, he was still very good in the run game. They ran at him a couple times, and he was there to do what he does. But I saw him getting run around by Noah Fant, a tight end. When you're just running around the pocket, you can't have that stuff happen. It seems to be he's got two speeds on pass rush. He's either going to bull rush or he's going to try and come around the end. And then there was one time he tried to spin back around and then just stopped because he got held up. Like he just didn't do anything anymore. And I don't know what's going on. And if you're not, like we talked about it, if you're not going to come out and say you're injured, then at this point you're just not doing enough.
Well, yeah, and you're inviting the criticism that you're getting, quite frankly. I mean, there are ways to get off of that, and that is to tell people what's going on. But I do agree that gives the opponents, something to work with. So I can understand why maybe they're just going to be secretive about it until the cows come home, really. But Jason Barnhouse, thank you very much for yours. I appreciate it. And for all you guys, tomorrow night is the Q&A. So come back, ask your question. We got the list here, and we want to make sure you get something for it. I still feel like Frank has some upside. I do agree with you that I do feel that he's hurt. I thought Alex Okafor showed up early against the run. I felt like he set the edge better than we've seen in weeks past. Tano even got a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, KFS did too.
I thought Mike Dana played down the run. Like, I didn't feel he was great setting the edge, but he pursued well. And so I feel like you're getting good play out of him. We saw Tershawn Wharton late get some push. So, like, as a group, the front seven, I think, is still performing fairly well, but it's just not at that peak.
You take out that 60-plus yard run that Melvin Gordon had, and they did a pretty good job. Huh?
Linebackers.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what it comes down to. You see him burst up the middle through a hole for without being touched. That's someone not doing the job, filling a gap, because the defensive linemen are doing their job. There's no one getting to the second level, and you just have guys missing. I saw a few times you do see Willie miss some things. It was a little interesting. That's one of the things I noticed when he was coming out, is his processing going through the run game it's not quite there yet. And that's probably a big reason as to why he's not been playing so much. There was, Frank's taking on two guys and forcing Gordon outside, and you see Willie just kind of like hesitate. Yeah. If you see him there, you need to go to the outside and make sure he's going to force back inside. So yeah, you take that away. I think they did a pretty good job against the run. The defense actually played really well in this game. I think that anytime you're playing against an in-division opponent, they're going to bring everything they got at you. And Denver pretty much did that on offense. They did whatever they could. They ran the ball, and then they just tried to do play action off of it, and they were pretty successful at that. And they did pretty well in limiting, for the most part, what they did. And Matthew stepped up huge in this game. Like you said, he seemed to be all over the field.
Let's do a little experiment, because I think I know what the answer is going to be. Who ran the ball better?
The Chiefs did.
Okay. Good for you. I'm glad you're paying attention, because at the end of the day, a lot of people, all they see is that Gordon run. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I pulled up the game book over here. 5.4 yards carry for the Broncos, 6.1 for the Chiefs.
Yeah, they didn't get any of those huge plays, but Le'Veon Bell was running 5, 6, 7 yards at a time. So they're piling up. And then you even see Darrell get in there and do the same thing. And some of the Mahomes runs were 15, and then he had that one that was 6 or 7. So it wasn't a lot of hugely negative plays, and it wasn't a lot of great, huge ones, but they were just chugging away at running the football.
I think at the end of the day, I really felt like between what they did with Lev and what they did with Darrell, I felt like they finally put those guys in positions to win all the way around. They did what they needed to do. I enjoyed that, because I think that's what we see Darrell do the best, running at, is just picking a hole and going and hammering it. And I was really happy to see that. Tyler, you have a good point that I was going to bring up. I'm not quite sure what's been a huge debate in the chats.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the debate is.
The Hill catch the refs called incomplete.
The one that they couldn't review because no one knew that it was a complete catch?
Right. If you're meaning what should have been the touchdown catch, that's up to the team to recall. The officials are going to recall or replay anything that is ruled a touchdown. So that's an automatic, but because it wasn't, that was up the team to request that, and they didn't get it done. So, in fact, Andy Reid came out in his presser and came over and said, I've never known you, Tyreek, to not think that you caught the ball.
He's never known any receiver. I think that's what I said. He's never known a receiver say he didn't catch the ball. But you're watching Tyreek come off the field. He clearly no one in the stadium thought he caught the ball until you hear Al Michaels on the replay say, "Oh wait, maybe he caught the ball," because even then it took them a while to get to it. So I see a lot of people saying that the replays up for the Chiefs should have seen it earlier. But one, if they didn't get to the proper angle to see it, you're not going to call it in. And if no one downstairs is urging anyone to get through it, they're just going to go and punt the ball.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, maybe you slow down running out the punt team, know, but that's just to buy yourself seconds to take a look at it, like you said. Scott Fansel, you bring up a point that I was going to bring to, because it's here all over my notes too, is it's not Arrowhead. It's almost, again, like the phenomenon of guys waiting around for Patrick to do something. It's almost like the team has that built into, like, we're going to have the Arrowhead crowd, even at like 16% capacity. It's still an advantage for them. So I think sometimes that they kind of rely on that a little bit, and it's really about the matchups. I think this comes all the way back to, like, Dan, you said it a couple of weeks ago, every team's giving them their Super Bowl effort. So it just being able to absorb that week after week after week becomes difficult. And luckily, we're still seeing them respond, because in my notes, all over it is, when are they going to punch back?
Yeah.
When are they going to hit this? 2 TDs to Hill. One he lost in the lights. One was that other catch that wasn't a catch that he thought wasn't a catch that was a catch, the whole 9 yards. Let me ask you this. I really like the wrinkle on Ferrari where they direct snap to Bell, but I'm tired of seeing it every week.
See, this is the thing. I don't like seeing it every week because, one, it tells me they don't feel comfortable enough in the red zone to do their normal plays, that they have to add flash to them, and they can't run the football without a little bit of misdirection with the eyes, and that's a problem because they don't trust their interior offensive line to get any type of push inside a 5-yard line. They were 0 for 4 in the red zone tonight.
Yeah,
0 for 4. That is a big problem.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be running. You have to at least give the illusion that you can run. And that's a huge problem. I called it a little bit too cute here. I'm looking in my notes. I thought I'll give Dan Sorensen credit. I thought he showed up early and he played well. I thought that once you saw Juan, he missed one open field tackle. You don't see that from him. And I'll tell you exactly why it happened, folks, because Juan is a free safety.
Yep.
He doesn't belong up at the line of scrimmage because the angles change very quickly. He's good at vision. He's good at chasing down angles. When they moved him to the back, and Tyron could come up and blitz a little bit and jump routes, you see what happens. That's the way they're meant to play.
Yeah, Thornhill is starting to pick it up a little bit. He's still not there fully yet. And when you start messing around with where he's on the field, he's not a linebacker. His job is not to see things and immediately respond. He sees things. If he has that time to immediately respond, he's got, room to make those decisions, but he doesn't have that normal brain process all the time. So yeah, we saw some things, Ward missed an open field tackle, Snead missed an open field tackle. Like just these little things here and there made it look a little bit worse than it was, but I still think that the defense played pretty well collectively. And Chris Jones was an animal in this game, guys. He was everywhere. And I know that a lot of people still try to. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter, and I think people just need to calm down on Chris Jones. I get the Frank Clark stuff. Jones is still one of the. He's putting pressures up consistently every single week. He's still, I think, second in the league for defensive tackles behind Aaron Donald. So he's just continuing to do what he does. So let's just kind of watch him and know that even if he's not getting there, he's doing something. He's knocking down balls out of the air. He's making the plays.
Yeah, I agree with you. And take it easy, everybody. It's going to be all right. Croc, you got a very good point, and thank you for the super chat. It was nice to see DeMarcus just head downfield.
It was so funny, man. As soon as it happened, I'm like, hey, look, what happens when you run down the field? He had 2 catches, and he just went forward.
Right? That's like what you're supposed to do. And the other thing is when Tyreek bellied back around, he actually made something of it because he does have the acceleration to do that. Yeah, barely. That is a fair point. But, I mean, that's what it comes down to. So I thought that there's a lot of comments in here about the refs. I'm not going to get into the refs. I generally stay away from the refs, folks, because there isn't a dang thing I can say that's going to change any of it. So
all thing I'll say is consistency. I don't care so much about penalties when it happens. The first half of this game, there weren't many penalties. As soon as it started getting close to the end, we saw more penalties happen. So that's just – I'd like to see more consistency throughout the game. If you're not calling stuff in the middle, at the beginning and the middle, don't call it so much at the end. I don't care.
I'm totally with you. That's
all I'll say.
The interior 3, I know, is a sticking point for you. They're part of why they can't run very well. I will say that I felt in pass block a couple of times I saw them work together as a unit better than I've seen before.
Definitely. So I think that when they brought some more pressure, that's when you could see some issues. And obviously Shelby Harris is going to win more often than not against the interior guys. That's just kind of who he is. So you see him get hands up in the air, just
right here,
punch him in the rib, just give him a nice little punch.
For the love of God.
That. Especially with his respiratory, like you think he doesn't have the full lung capacity. I hit him a couple times up there under the ribs. You think he's going to do that again?
Well, and here's the other thing, folks. You put your arms up, that's one thing. You lose all leverage. You jump in the air to try to bat a ball. All the offense lineman has to do is throw you. It's easy. It's just about timing, and they are all missing it. But they got their act together, so good for them.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's something to build on, because I think the 3 of them working together in the pass game is going to help hopefully get them together on the run game. Who else? Willie Gay Jr. needs to be playing more.
Every week.
Do I sound like a broken record yet?
Dude, he's still making plays. Like, he flashes every single week.
Yeah.
Even if it's something he's still learning, like he had made some mistakes, but that dude's flying every time the ball snapped. He's flying,
even if it's in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
he does fly to recover, and that makes a difference. I thought for a moment we might see him a little bit more when we thought Hitchens might be hurt for a minute. Didn't work out. I didn't see him get any extra snaps. I'm going to be interested to see what his snap count is.
Yeah,
he did flash a couple times late in the game as well. Snead almost came up with another interception late. So, like, I'll tell you this, he did miss that tackle, but that KJ Hamler is a guy that I have notes from the Senior Bowl saying this guy gets loose no matter what. He is a tough guy to stick to. So I'm going to give him a wash on that. But making plays is contagious. And I think having Tyron get 2 picks in an evening, I think that's a step forward, and hopefully that can lift everybody.
Yeah, that's what you're going to hope. And especially with Snead looking healthy, he played well in this game. I think Breland again played well. Yeah, Patrick caught a touchdown over him. Sometimes it's going to happen with guys that are just like taller than you. And he was on the sideline. Sometimes you don't really know where the sideline is. He thought he was out of bounds. Whatever, it's going to happen. But he's still playing really well. Stick with Judy a lot tonight too, and that was really, I saw that was impressive from him.
Yeah, I'm with you.
He's with a guy like that. So this is good.
He can hurt you, and honestly, I'd like to see Willie eventually take on Fant because I think he can turn the run with him. Jason, you have a very good question. Let me hit this camera real quick. This is not meant to be Green Bay Packer colors. This happens to be the colors of the network because the guy who runs this network is the play-by-play guy for the Utah Jazz, and their colors happen to be green and gold as well. So some of these things are a little bit iffy that I can't really make these kind of determinations on, but I thank you for pointing that out. And now you guys got to see that I do have Chiefs gear on the wall, so it does exist. A lot of members in here. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not going to get to all the questions because we're just trying to run through all the notes. I put it out there. I got some responses, but I didn't have a chance to really chase them down. I thought Vic Fangio showed again why he's not prepared to be a head coach. The 2-point play was ridiculously stupid because it didn't give you enough advantage. The only thing that it could have done well for is if you assume you're going to keep Patrick Mahomes out of the end zone for an entire game, which is not going to happen. It just drove me insane. And so I like Vic Fangio. He shows you that he can make an adaptive defense that is hard to beat. So kudos to him for that. Just go back to being a DC is what I'm saying.
I think they're definitely giving him another shot next year. He's 100% in my opinion coming back, especially because of what you saw for the first half against the Saints last week and then what you just saw against the Chiefs. I think that's kind of enough really for him to earn that extra year. So, and defensive head-minded head coach is doing what he's doing with the injuries and the COVID stuff. Like, it's impressive. I'll give him that. Like, it's very impressive.
Yeah, I disagree, but that's okay. Board bet. A 4-pack of barley wine. How's that? Since I know you're not into that.
I think I kicked my butt last night, but it grew on me a little bit.
It will eventually. All the hair sprouts. Then you feel better.
It just starts to sprout the hair on your chest, man. Woof.
But I do think that I tend to disagree, but it'll be interesting to see which one of us is right because who knows what's going on inside the organization. In Denver.
I mean, they don't have an owner, so
so we'll just see what happens.
So how have we not talked about Travis Kelce?
Because everybody's talking about Travis Kelce. He's a monster. He's a Hall of Famer at this point.
5 straight seasons, 1,000 yards, extending his own.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you say about that guy, man? This is I think it's his best game against the Broncos ever.
Yeah, I agree with that because they have given him due attention in years past.
Yeah, a lot. And usually they got better coverage linebackers.
I mean, I'll say it. I'm sure somebody said it before. He's a Hall of Famer. It's done. It's not a question.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And only caveat on that is how he tails off. If he does what he should do and play up to his ability to win and then drops off a cliff and he goes, and he doesn't hang on 5 extra years like somebody I know, let's avoid that. Then I agree.
I'm going that he's got 6 years of like high-end production left. He's 31. That'll make him 37. I think he can. His 6-year the 6 years he's left with the team on this contract are probably going to be still productive enough that he's going to get himself into that first ballot realm. Now, that's when we talk about if he hangs on. Say he's still got some left. Obviously, if they still want to bring him back, that's where we're going to kind of have that discussion.
Yeah, and then it becomes about dollars making sense. But
Yep.
I agree with you. Wolverine, it's a good question. He did end the day with a quarterback hit, so that's at least one pressure, and a batted ball that technically counts as another, but I don't know if PFF will rank it that way.
Probably not.
We both feel he is injured, and he's just not letting anyone know.
Gotta do more.
And it may not be anything that they can even affect any change on. It might not be something that's treatable. It might not be an injury. It may be an overall kind of body maintenance kind of thing. I'm not sure he's at the playing weight he's been in past years, right?
Yeah, we don't know it. And I'm not seeing much in terms of hand checking. Like he's not doing much in terms of trying to get hands off of him and use technique. He's just either he's rushing around the end or he's trying to bull rush. That seems like all it is. And I could be wrong, but that's just kind of the thing I'm getting right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kyle. I will let you know. I am pleasantly. And guys, don't go find the guy that I'm playing. Okay, in fact, I'm just gonna move his name off. That's what I'm doing. So I'm not hurting too bad because they left some scores on the field there. I think I'm doing just about fine. I have now broken through my tie, and this is my money league for a cool $1,200, and I am squarely in first place. And
that'll happen, huh?
And for you guys that are in the league that are watching, I don't want to hear it. So that said, big takeaway for me is that unlike years past where it's been feast or famine, the good thing for me is that they're learning to walk the tightrope. This is better, struggling, winning by 6 or 3, or, trailing for a good amount of the game. Yeah. This is better than going down 3 scores in the playoffs and having to come back. You know what I mean? We all know they have it in them, but for me, this feels like better management, a bit of a maturation. We're just all screaming for them to be all that they can be, in my opinion.
That's pretty much what it is at this point. And for me, this game had so much of that was 2016 Chiefs Steelers mess where they only scored field goals and they still ended up beating the Chiefs because they couldn't just do anything. It had that so much stink on it, but then you see all of the things that happened in this game. It should have been a blowout, but it wasn't. And that's going to happen kind of in these games. And I feel like it happens a lot against teams that they should handily beat. And that's the bigger problem. And whether it's going to come back to bite them or not, we're gonna end up seeing that, because if they end up being the 2 seed, then they're probably going to have to play a team that's not very good in terms of to their level. So we might have to end up seeing that, especially if the Raiders squeak into the playoffs, and then that'll be an interesting matchup. But win's a win. 11-1. I mean, I'm not greatly happy about the circumstances of the win, but again, here we are.
Yeah, you're right. And Stevie, you're right. If it all goes the way it went last season, all will be forgiven. Again, you are absolutely right. For me, I want it not to have to become so desperate, because it feels desperate at the time.
Yeah.
So I want them to have a little more preparation. Be bowed up when you go out there, not at halftime. That's kind of my point. But they'll get there, and we're going to get there too, folks. We'll have film breakdowns, the stat reviews. I'll have one Tuesday. We have the live Q&A for an hour tomorrow night. Members, we will do a live stream chat as well on Tuesday night, same time as usual. And folks, if you want to become a member, you get a little bit more frank conversation from Dan and I. You might hear some choice words that we're not going to do here in public. So that's a big part of it. And members get a discount to all the new gear and all the stuff over at the RGR store too. And I have some cool stuff coming for you too. That said, I feel like this is another week that they have to start getting prepared for, because I don't think the Dolphins are the sleeping dog that we thought they were. You know what I mean? I think Flores has some tricks up his sleeve as well. I'm not worried,
No.
But I'm going to say they need to pay attention. They can't waltz in there. This is not going to be an easy game.
No. The Dolphins caught themselves doing what the Chiefs did. They looked ahead to the Chiefs game because they pretty much laid a goose egg against the Bengals. It was not very good.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that very much. Daryl, how are you? Yeah, upsets are, yeah. Raiders are just, I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing.
You just broke them.
I think so. I think that's really all it is down there.
And then Greg Williams was like, here, you guys have the win.
See ya. You know, when you blitz for absolutely no reason, just because you can, that's what happens.
3rd and 10. I'm seeing people defending him.
And
3rd and 10. What are you doing?
We're not even going to have that discussion because it's not worth the time. But folks, be back here tomorrow night, 7:05, Arrowhead Town. That gives me a couple of minutes, so I'm always late for everything. So that's how that's going to work.
I'll hop in there.
Dan will be here for film later in the week. Jeff Porter will have a stat of the week for you. I will have the BTN breakdown. We'll have the game for next week. Thank you, Maximo, for your super sticker. Thank you guys for all the support and all the orders over at the RGR store. Evidently, the new RGR character you guys like. I kind of dig him too, so that's cool. Appreciate that. And until tomorrow night, enjoy a W. Don't worry about too much about it, and talk trash at the water cooler. Dan, you have a good night.
You too, man.
All right, buddy. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow.